Okay, today I've got a book for you. It's a book I've just finished reading about fourth or fifth time. I've actually just bought the audio book as well because I love it so much. It's about a man named Nicolas Darvas and it's called How I Made $2 Million in the Stock Market. There you go. It comes in various different covers, but you'll be able to find it. Now, Nicolas Darvas, he was a dancer from back in the 1950s. He travelled all around the world dancing. He first became interested in the stock market when a client of his offered to pay him in stock rather than in cash. Anyway, a couple of months after he got hold of this stock, he checked the prices and, much to his surprise, he'd made about $8,000 in a couple of months. So he sold up and he took that 8,000 profit immediately and became hooked on trading the stock market ever since. He went on to trade from all around the world via orders through cables to his brokers in New York. So what I like about this book is I've learned some really good fundamental lessons, and I reckon there's something for everyone to take from this book. Now, the first most obvious lesson I learned is Darvas had rules. He developed a strategy over a period of about 5-6 years that became really successful, and it was just rule based, and he followed those rules rigorously. The first one really is buy high and sell higher. Now, you probably hear most people say buy low, sell high. That wasn't really the case with Darvas. He wasn't afraid to buy a very high price stock and then sell it when it was even higher. That was part of his strategy. He would buy what's called breakouts. So if a stock was trading at around, let's say, $48 and it broke out above 50 and it went to 51, then he would buy that at just above 50 and it's a new high. But more often than not, that stock would carry on making new highs. And then what he'd do is he'd quite often add to the winning positions. So if that stock carried on and then broke up above 55, he'd buy it again and he'd add to his position. If it went above 60, he'd buy again. And he'd eventually, he'd gather all this stock in what was a really, really good trending stock, and then he'd sell it when the time was right. So when did he sell? When was the time right? He used a stop loss. This is the second lesson to take. I love stop losses. I use them all the time. And yeah, Darvas, not only did he use stop losses to get out of trades very quickly when he was wrong, take a small loss quickly, and he'd also use a stop loss to take profit. So as that stock was advancing, as it was going up from 50 to 55 to 60, so he'd raise the stop loss level behind that as the price went up. It was what's called a trailing stop loss. So as that stock went from 50 to 55, so he'd move the stop loss up from, for example, 48 to 53. What it would do is it would lock in profit along the way. And then eventually, the stock, they don't go up forever. It's going to turn down and come down at some point. And that's when his stop loss would get him out at, hopefully, a really good profit. So he's got rules, he's got stop losses, he adds to his winners. And the last thing really is Darvas, being abroad vast majority of the time, he had no involvement with Wall Street, and he listened to no rumours and he read no news. His decisions on what he bought were purely made on price action of these particular stocks. He would get the weekly newspapers, the daily newspapers. He'd rip out the stock quotations, study them, and then he'd make his decisions. So it's a bit like what I do, really. I try and really distance myself from the chat rooms and what's going on and reading the news. I tend to make my own decisions. From my experience, what that does is it takes that element of emotion out of your trading, and that element of emotion can be detrimental to becoming successful. So yeah, there's something I do as well. So I hope you get yourself a copy of this. How I made 2 million in the stock market. There's a link on my blog to get it from Amazon if you want. You can get it from eBay, wherever you want. So go over to my blog now at thetransparenttrader.com, where I've got a more in-depth review, and subscribe to this channel, my YouTube channel, and I'll see you on the next one.